My name is Alex Smith. I'm the Chief HR Officer for the City of Memphis, and I'm proud to talk with you and share with you the story of our transformation and adaptation journey. And essentially, it's a story around change management and what does it mean to evolve your organization and your culture in order to be able to serve and provide the information and services necessary to citizens. So to get us started, let me tell you about the Memphis story. It started in 2015, where you had a newly minted mayor really focused on how to be brilliant at the basics and sought to assemble a team of people with different backgrounds and perspectives who could essentially have new eyes focused on old problems. At the core of our story, it's related to what does it mean to have that moment of truth, that moment that sparks innovation, that moment where you understand that there's something that needs to be done differently in order for you to make a difference. So when I go back to 2015, what was going on? So at the time, Mayor Strickland, who had just been elected in the fall of 2015, he actually started working as the new mayor of Memphis in January of 2016. And a part of the cohort that he assembled as his senior leadership team, he, as I mentioned, looked to bring in people with new perspectives. So I interviewed for the role in late 15 as the Chief HR Officer for the City of Memphis, really the first ever Chief HR Officer for the city. The previous title before me was HR Director. And so in my interview, I talked about the importance of culture change and what needed to happen in terms of helping his vision come alive of making life better for Memphians every day. Coming into the role, one of the things I had to do, of course, is do my research and due diligence about what was going on with the organization. And so the results were astounding in terms of the morale challenges and the issues that we had to face in order to be able to make a difference and truly make Mayor Strickland's vision come alive. I think many of us in government, you come into an organization and you want to get to work. But I want to encourage you, the first step really is assessing and understanding what's happening in the organization. So in 2015, I do my due diligence and really understand what's going on. And so first thing is I looked on Glassdoor to see where we were. And at the time, the organization had a 2.5 rating out of 5.0. The next piece was looking at the CEO approval rating, which on Glassdoor was 32%. Likelihood to recommend us as an employer, we were at 40%. And then eventually, actually, within the first 2 months of me being enrolled, we did an employee engagement survey and discovered we were at 50% employee engagement. When you look at these numbers, 2.5, 32%, 40%, 50%, it tells a story that there's something going on with the morale and the challenges with the organization that we need to directly look at and address in order to be able to do the work that's important for the citizens of Memphis. So the way I described this situation to the mayor was related to a cycle, and I called it a declining morale cycle that we were in. So to kick it all off, one of the things I researched and understood at the very beginning is that the city had to implement some extreme austerity measures. And that has to do with the state mandating that the city fully fund its pension by 2020. In order to do that, the city had to cut back on compensation, promotions, and healthcare benefits. That in itself led to a decline in employee morale, which led to a decline in customer delivery, which overall led into a decline of overall public perception, which led to population loss, which led to a decline in revenue. And of course, would ultimately lead to us having to implement more austerity measures. So it's extremely important that as an organization that we understood that we were in this cycle and that we had to face this and do something about it. So an important moment of truth for me coming in was, how do we break this cycle? And when I got to work, immediately becoming installed as the new Chief HR Officer in early January, one of the things that was important to me was developing a strategy to address this. And I created a really focused approach that was all about, looking at culture change, HR systems, talent management, and really looking at how we could build an infrastructure in our HR organization to help us recruit and retain top talent for the city of Memphis. So one of my most interesting experiences within the first 2 weeks of joining this organization was I was working diligently, developing the plans, essentially our first 90-day strategy of what we were looking to do. And while I was sitting at my desk, my executive assistant at the time provides me this orange folder, the orange folder that you see here. And so I look inside the orange folder and I see it's a trifold sheet of paper, and it has information about the employees' compensation, around their address, and then it has 4 signature lines, one for the supervisor, the director, myself, and the chief operating officer. So I asked her what this is, and she's like, oh, anytime an employee wants to make a change, they have to submit a change request to you. And someone actually walks over the change request from the division over to us for you to sign, and then it gets walked to the COO's office for him to sign. So I look at this, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I read through it, makes sense to me. I sign it, close the folder, going about my day. Fast forward the next week, I end up having to sign 100 sheets of paper for simple things as address changes or compensation changes. And that's when I had this major aha moment that, wait a minute, how is it that we can have our division directors focused on the things that matter the most to citizens, and they're having to spend time just signing sheets of paper? This let me know that we needed to focus our efforts first and foremost on building infrastructure and capacity so that our teams could focus on the things that mattered the most first. That led me to what I called Operation No Paper, which in 2016, I challenged our HR team to go paperless by December 2020. And boy, I am so glad that I did. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And so in going into Operation No Paper, it really was a significant in terms of helping to think about how we can make changes in city government. Now, we already had a purview on how to do that with the organizational structure change. So when Mayor Strickland came in, he moved from a traditional CAO model to a more advanced C-suite model, which is what you would see in the private sector. And this is all around giving him more visibility as a mayor and really as a CEO, if you will, of the organization, to help him understand the key issues, and most importantly, getting us to break down the silos and work together as a team. But in doing that, that also led the way for other organizations to flatten their structures as well, and to really create more of a collaborative environment focused on team and solving problems together. And so from an HR standpoint, we also moved into that direction as well by flattening the structure, moving away from a typical director, deputy director model to more of a center of excellence model focused on the key areas that were the most critical for the city of Memphis from an HR standpoint. So we established the roles of talent management, equity, diversity, and inclusion, HR operations, analytics and performance, and total rewards. And this really helps to streamline and focus the work and create opportunities for more synergy. And then from there, that really helped us to unlock innovation in our HR organization, particularly, and focus in on the issues that mattered the most. So our team started to really focus less on process as we started to automate, and really more on the results and what are the outcomes that we thought would make the most sense as in our discussions with the divisions about how to help them really do their work well. So everything from focus on professional development by creating a development institute and enhancing our tuition reimbursement program, to focusing on benefits and establishing a wellness program, more PTSD support, and even getting into financial wellness counseling, to also making a difference in terms of our direct public safety recruiting by creating a retention and recruiting effort directly for our police department, and also being able to establish more programs that help our employees be able to make a difference in their lives. For example, we are still, I believe, the only municipality that offers a student loan contribution program. These type of innovative ideas made a difference in terms of our ability to have impact and helping the divisions be able to do the work that's most important. And so fast forward, going into 2019, we were able to make drastic differences in our work. So one, we were able to move our score on Glassdoor from 2.5 to 3.5. Our CEO approval rating went from the 30% to 91%. We were able to make a change with our likelihood to recommend and to make it 68%. And then our employee engagement scores moved from 50% to 74%. Remarkable changes within essentially a 4-year time frame because we were able to focus on these key issues that made a difference for our employees. And of course, the most important piece is that our mayor was reelected in 2019, which gave us that vote of confidence that the citizens of Memphis really liked the work that we were doing and wanted to see 4 more years. And we also received some notoriety as well for me personally making the cover of Workforce Magazine, also being recognized for my excellence in human resources as well, and really helping to bring public sector to the forefront, and that HR work in the public sector is different, is challenging, but also highly rewarding in terms of what we can do in the face of helping the citizens the most. But just like with anything, the ultimate measure of a man, as he says, a moment of comfort and convenience, but when he stands in challenge and controversy. And so last year particularly was very challenging for us as an HR team. And I know for many HR organizations, as you seek to be on this journey of making changes and advancing your organizations. Of course, we have the coronavirus in itself and what that meant to our organization. And for us, it really prompted us to come together as a team, recognizing the importance of collaboration and innovation, and thinking really thoroughly about how we could advance our policies, our information, and creating innovative programs to be able to support our employees. So, for example, having an internal contact tracing team, being able to provide care kits to our employees who are diagnosed positive, having on-site virtual student learning hubs for working parents, all important things that were needed to be able to help support employees during a most critical time. And then, of course, continuing to keep the work going, right? Because a part of it is not only the ability to make changes and drive for innovation, but also being brilliant at the basics. And so what we've been able to show and demonstrate with the city of Memphis is that it is possible that when you work together and you collaborate and you're able to get and harness all the best ideas, that you can still be innovative, but get the basic work done. And so we were able to demonstrate that with our ability to both hire, promote employees, particularly last year with the most challenging time. And so as we look at the road ahead, and what I would recommend is we think about what's important as an HR organization, and what I would submit to you even as HR leaders as you're thinking and navigating through change in your organizations, is that you have to now think about a new definition of success. I think previously we had, certain perspectives about, success being certain metrics. I think now with COVID, we now have a new definition of what that could be in our organizations, new operating models. So I think giving this idea around more flexibility and how to think differently about how you get work done, I think opens the door for us to think differently as government agencies about operating models. And then, of course, re-engaging and re-recruiting our employees. So we understand that all of our employees, including ourselves, have gone through so many different challenges in so many different ways. And so, understanding that it's important to look at how do we re-engage and have conversations to be able to help them be able to get a renewed spirit and commitment to public service. So understand truly what is truly important to you, to your employees, and to your customers or your citizens, and really speaking to that and developing programs and initiatives that support that as well. And so boiling down, what are the 11 steps on how to transform and how to deliver change? So number one is around setting the vision and identifying key leadership. Is important. When we started this journey in 2015, Mayor Strickland was really clear about wanting to have a team that was focused on not only being brilliant at the basics, but making life better for Memphians. And he identified key leaders to help him do that. That's an important first step in being able to make change happen. Secondly, assess the current state. You don't want to skip over that. Understanding what's currently happened and what's currently going on, but then also understanding best practices and benchmarks helps you to be able to make clear decisions about what your strategy should be. Number three is all about creating a strategy and executing that vision and to the best of your ability, and then building a team that can support that in step 4 as well to help you execute. 5 is all about locating resources. So I didn't go into it a lot, but a key component here is not only building the team, but then locating the funding and any other technology and resources. People, processes, technology matters in terms of being able to really make the vision happen in the best way. Number 6, execute, execute, execute. Monitor your progress. Make sure that you are staying focused and reminding yourself of the vision that's in front of you. Of course, you have to adapt when needed. We have several stories over the last few years where we've launched something, we thought it was going to go one way, and then it went completely differently. And so it's important that we, be nimble and flexible and adaptable, understanding that it's not going to be perfect. But the idea is that you continue to stay focused and keep the road ahead in front of you. And then learning from your missteps. I mean, I think there's always an opportunity for us to learn and to understand that, it's not going to be perfect. But I think communicating effectively and being consistent in your communication makes a difference in being able to get through those rough times. And then lastly, you got to celebrate. It's so important to celebrate the wins, whether they're small or big. It helps keep the morale up. It helps keep people committed to what's going on. So celebrating what those wins are really important for your organization. So to wrap up here, my top 4 suggestions for resilient leadership and dealing with change management: being authentic, and having your vision set in that authenticity, I think is important. Having intentional focus, understanding what you're going after and why you're going after it. Keeping a positive team, celebrating those wins and keeping that morale up is so important, especially during the rough times. And then, of course, being adaptable and flexible. And there's nothing like COVID-19 and everything we've gone through as organizations with the pandemic that has taught us more than to being adaptable and flexible and nimble when needed, so that we can serve our employees to the best of our ability. Thank you.